Hey everyone, it's Greg Marcus here. This is a makeup video for the second get together for our Psalm 27 Elul Workshop. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who sent me emails wishing my dad well. I had to cancel the workshop, as you know, because when I arrived in Syracuse, my father was in the hospital. He is doing better. It looks like he'll be leaving the hospital within a day or two to go to rehab to get his strength back. So once again, thank you all so much for your support and understanding. Today, I'm going to share with you a couple of the slides and some of my insights about the second stanza of Psalm 27. And I also want to know how is your practice going, which I think is the first question on the slides. Yeah, how's it going? For me, it was kind of weird because I had this big disruption in my life, and it was very hectic when I was in Syracuse. But I still managed to stick with the practice. I wasn't able to do all of it every day, but at minimum, I read the psalm, and usually I was able, excuse me, usually I was able to journal and listen to the music and do some meditation. And I'll share with you a little bit later some of the insights that I had. Okay, so as we engage in this practice, let's say the prayer the Rabbi Deborah Robbins wrote for Psalms, for interacting with Psalms. Baruch atah Adonai, shenatan li lechodot ulhalel ula'asok b'divrei Tehillim. I praise you, Divine One, as I give thanks, celebrate, and engage with your sacred psalms. I'm not going to read the whole psalm now, but today our focus is on the second stanza, and that begins at verse 4. So I will read verses 4, 5, and 6, which is the second stanza and the focus for our journaling this week. One thing I've sought from Adonai, how I long for it, that I may live in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, that I may look upon the sweetness of Adonai and spend time in the palace, that you may hide me in your sukkah on a chaotic day, hide me in the hiding places of your tent, raise me high upon a rock. Now my head rises high above my enemies round about. And in your tent I'll offer offerings to the sound of truah. I shall sing and chant praises to Adonai. So when I first analyzed this and looked at this stanza, I call this kind of the fantasy of ultimate protection. Remember, in the first stanza, we saw there were evildoers up ahead. And so what is our response? Like, well, gee, all I want, the one thing I ask is to be in the house of the divine all the days of my life. And then we're going to be hidden in the tent, and there's going to be shofar blowing, and we're going to be raised up on a rock, and we're going to see clearly all our enemies around us, and we're going to sing and chant praises to the divine. And so for me, my first interpretation, and I think it's still a valid interpretation, is in response to trouble or stress or overwhelm, we kind of retreat in a fantasy that everything is going to be okay. Wow, we're going to be protected by God. We're going to be taken care of. There's nothing to worry about. Maybe it's a little bit of denial. And frankly, denial can be a healthy and important coping mechanism sometimes. It's interesting as I've been doing the journaling for these last few days, having dealt with this kind of scary situation with my father in the hospital. And I didn't see this as kind of a denial. For me, I was recognizing it more as like an offer of protection and feeling like I was in the divine tent. It allowed me to engage with this stressful situation from a place of equanimity, from a place of being centered. And I think Rabbi Robbins, in one of her reflections on this section, said it's kind of looking at the world with kind of a sweetness, maybe is the way that God would would look at us, or we would look at a small innocent baby um, before they've kind of gotten into those more challenging behaviors, or we would look at adults who we find challenging in our life, and just kind of looking at everything with a favorable eye. And I particularly resonated with this idea of being raised high up on a rock, um, which it no longer felt like I'm going to be above it all and I'm going to be safe from everything, but I saw it as having clear vision. I was kind of raised up, and I could see clearly what was going on around me. So dealing with the doctors, dealing with the hospital, I felt like, okay, here I am with good vision, and I can make good decisions for what's going on. So I hope that you're finding this practice, you're still finding it fruitful. I hope you're still finding it engaging and that you're having insights. Let's see, what else did I want to go over? Oh, yes. So, Sha'alti. So that is the Hebrew words, one thing I ask of God. There's a lot. It's a beautiful passage. I wrote about it at the end of my Musar book. And a lot of people have written music to this. So in the comments for the video or in this email that was sent out, I'm going to share with you a link to two of my former classmates, two graduates of my school who are wonderful cantors and composers. And they do a really cool call and response about Achat Sha'alti, which I really like. It has kind of a Mizrahi Persian flair. So I'd love to know what you think about it. And then what we were going to do together, and I invite you to do this now, is listen to the video and then compare kind of Achat Sha'alti as a standalone, this idea about having one thing I'm asking of God, and then is anything added or lost when we look at these next couple of verses about being in God's tent. It's one thing I want to dwell in the house of the divine all the days of my life. And then it's like, yeah, not only do I want to kind of dwell there, I want to be protected and I want to have this fantastic, idyllic life where nothing can harm me. So, as you gather, I've this really speaks to me, and it is something that I've percolated a lot on. So then maybe for a couple minutes journal and say, well, what is your fantasy for complete protection or an ideal life? Like, what might that look like? And is that of comfort to you? Is it a kind of a distraction from reality? Is it maybe a source of pain? Geez, that's my idyllic life. And boy, the life I'm living right now is really, really challenging. And then some of you did share contact information with the Hevruta, and so this would have been a source for discussion. So if you do have people that you are in Hevruta with, or maybe a friend or a partner, someone who is also interested in the psalm, it might be something worth thinking about. And if you'd like to reply to the email, or if you'd like to write in the comments of the YouTube video, that is another option as well. Finally, just a reminder that you can do this practice in a lot of different ways. There's the basics of just reading the psalm every day. You can add in some journaling and some meditation. And then the full practice would be listening to the music, to read the reflection by Rabbi Deborah Robbins, and then do the journaling, and then do the meditating. Okay, so we are in the midst of reading. This should be the second stanza. Sorry about that. We're in the midst of doing our second stanza. And we will meet this Thursday, August 31st, to explore the third stanza. Once again, thank you so much for engaging in this practice. I hope you're finding it fruitful. I so appreciate the support from this community, and I am looking forward to seeing you on Thursday.